Hello and welcome everyone. This is the Experiential Learning Fund Colloquium for the previous round, so the 2021-22 round of grant recipients. And this current round of the competition is just in the final stages of being vetted. So my thanks to many of the faculty presenters here who are also on that committee. I also thought I'd mention that the Experiential Learning Network has been around at UW since 2008. And the fund itself has been around since at least 2012, which would mark 10 years this year that we've been using this fund to support new projects and courses that center active learning approaches for students and highlighting stuff like hands-on experience and transferable job skills way before terms like work integrated learning and community-based learning were common knowledge and practice in universities Canada-wide. So I would say that's pretty remarkable. And this colloquium here will highlight some of the work and projects that our faculty and students have been doing in an experiential learning capacity, and will hopefully provide some interesting perspectives on what that can look like across UW and some of the different faculties. So our first presenters are Drs. Rob Pryce and Molgat-Seon, and their student co-presenter Matthew Sawatsky, to talk to us about statistics applications in kinesiology, bridging theory and practice. So John can go ahead.
All righty, is that coming through all right for everyone? Well, terrific. Thanks for having us, and obviously thanks to the ELF office for supporting our project. As Nyala was just saying, our team for this project consisted of Yannick and I, and we were lucky enough to be able to hire an excellent research assistant, Matt Sawatsky, who worked very hard to bring our ideas to fruition. There we go. So our project addresses, I think, a pretty common challenge in kinesiology, where our students take a number of really good undergraduate statistics courses, but then often struggle to apply that knowledge to practice or utilization. And certainly, you know, my own experience has been that one of the best ways to become proficient in statistics is by actually engaging with the data. Unfortunately, I think a lot of students experience this as kind of a trial by fire when they launch into grad school or have to engage in an honors thesis. So we were hoping to address that gap and provide some online practical experiences related to statistics and data management that would benefit kinesiology students. So our aim was to develop two modules, one on correlation and one on ANOVA, that would emphasize more the how and when to perform statistical tests and build on all of that excellent underlying theory that they have in their degrees. Our target audience was third and fourth year honors students, as well as any other kin students engaging in research. And I suppose it's worth mentioning that our honors program is relatively new. It's just finishing its second year and will be in the neighborhood of a dozen or so students moving through that program, which is exciting. And then, as I already alluded to, we used our budget to support a research assistant who was really provided a lot of the resources to help prepare and develop the modules. So maybe with that said, I'll turn things over to Matthew, who can give us an overview of what was developed and delivered.
Thanks, Rob. As one of the students who went through the trial by fire, you know, I can see this being a valuable resource, and I'm glad that Rob and Yannick thought of developing this. So it was kind of developed by Rob and Yannick's kind of 2 years of the, you know, burgeoning honors program, where they saw this disconnect. And last summer I had a NSERC grant for research, and I, you know, kind of drowned for a bit at the beginning without trying to figure out that connect that Rob was talking about between the stats class and the actual application. So Yannick was nice enough to supply a data set for creating this kind of textbook or module oriented thing. And we were able to generate a bunch of different modules from that data set. We wanted to kind of go over the most common data analysis methods that people would be going through. And as you can see, we came up with kind of 7 general modules. And all of this was based around this open source software called Jamovi. We just kind of wanted one software where we could, show you start with the data here and kind of get the results this way. And each module kind of had subsections, as you can kind of see on the to the right. So example, we had, a few different modules. It wasn't even for all of them, but we did our best to make sure everything was covered for that. And we wanted to put it on Nexus so that it could be ported to any professor, be that in the Faculty of Kinesiology or outside of it, so that, it'd be ease of access for everybody. You can kind of see an example here of how we organized it with the modules, and then each module also has a subsection, which I think is the next slide. Yeah. And we just wanted to have subsections for each module. Just, it's a little more digestible in terms of, being able to take small chunks at a time, as opposed to, reading through 10 pages of, for example, ANOVAs, which makes my eyes glaze over. So we wanted to make sure that students would be able to kind of take small bites and work through it and totally understand kind of what they were going for. We also put some learning objectives up top just to kind of get the students in the headspace to be able to know what they were looking or what they should be taking out of these chapters. I know myself, if I don't kind of have that overview at the beginning of time, sometimes you learn the wrong stuff and then have to come back and do it again. But yeah, that's kind of that slide there. And this is an example of the text that we developed. As you can kind of see, there's screenshots of the program Jamovi, kind of with detailed breakdowns of how to, for example, in this one, conduct a t-test in Jamovi. That way students could kind of go through it step by step, and then when they're doing it on their own, go back and refer to that, just to kind of get those reps in. The big reason we went with Jamovi was it's just open source, so there's no paywall for people to go behind. And there's a lot of different plugins you can also download as well, depending on, if you needed other resources other than kind of the basic ones. Yeah, I'll pass that over to Yannick now, I believe.
Thanks, Matthew. Before I crack on, I wanted to make one slight correction on what Matt said. He was actually a brilliant student, and the trial by fire is he succeeded overwhelmingly. So I just wanted to make that little caveat there. But just to sort of summarize, the goal really of this project was to create a few modules that could be complementary to the 2 courses that we have as part of our new honors program. And the idea there would be, again, to sort of speed up the learning curve and complement some of the previous statistics courses that many students take several years before actually enrolling in the honors program. And what they learn with these modules is applicable not just to research in kinesiology or in grad school beyond, but also in other areas, whether it be analyzing data in the context of the job or whatever it may be. We chose to use R as the kind of the platform because it's open source, it's free, and it doesn't create this financial barrier that students would otherwise experience with expensive stats software packages. And they could use it once they graduate without having to pay for anything. And from, as we look forward, obviously we'd like to create more of these modules so that we can capture a greater breadth of sort of statistical applications. Rob and I's bias is towards quantitative stats, but we also would like to incorporate some modules that deal with qualitative research, because we have many researchers in kinesiology who do qualitative research. And I feel as though the same approach would benefit their students just as well. And then there's some other sort of research-related skills that aren't formally taught in the context of stats courses at our institution that we feel like we could dovetail with these modules relatively easily. And maybe once there's a very updated iteration of these modules, maybe we could distribute it to other undergraduate institutions to really sort of enrich the undergraduate research experience they have at those institutions. So with that, I would just like to thank Nyala for your support throughout this whole year, and for the ELF Fund for granting us some resources to do this project, because I think the kinesiology students will certainly benefit from it greatly. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. That was really interesting. I just want to say I love the open source, open access component of this. I feel like that's a real special thing that brings value to students and to other universities. So yeah, did anyone else have any questions for this team?
I had one comment.
For sure.
Yes, I'm listening to you, and this is something that I know nothing about, but I'm also at the same time listening to my daughter, who came from University of Winnipeg anthropology. She went to kinesiology master's program in Lethbridge, and she was telling me about her struggles with statistics, because she now has to become an expert in statistics, because that's one of the top fields right now in many areas. And I'm so happy that you did this, because I can use it. I can share it with her and her group, who is doing a program called Stand When You Can. It's a pan-Canadian program of making people stand whenever they can, literally, very simply. So they need statistical data nicely organized. And I thank you for this. And I thank Nella for actually supporting this. So I will definitely ask you to share this with me so that I can share them with them or directly with them. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for that comment. I'm not surprised to hear that there's some students out there that would benefit from this. I know, speaking from experience, that I struggled mightily with stats in my master's, and it took me years to sort of master it. And I'd say that I'm still sort of behind students like Matt. So I think hopefully it could be shared widely. So we'd be happy to share whatever content we have with you. Rob, anything to add, or Matt?
No, just thanks for the kind words, and I agree with everything that Yannick mentioned.
Yeah, there's nothing else pressing. I guess we can go to the next presentation. Ainsley, did you need to share your screen, or did your
yes, please
share to make you a co-host? All right. So yeah, our next presenters are Dr. Ainsley Hinds and student co-presenter Siegfried Thur. Their project is called Enhancing Capacity to Implement, Deliver, and Evaluate the Certificate in Applied Psychology. So this is out of the psychology department. And yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. I'm very excited to be here to tell everyone about the certificate in applied psychology and how we use the money from the Experiential Learning Fund. I'm here today with Siegfried Thur, who was a student in my class, Applied Psychology, in the fall term. She's going to tell you about her experience with New Directions, and Siegfried benefited partly from the fund, as New Directions required criminal record check, and some of the money from the grant helped to pay for the criminal record checks for the students. I also used the money, part of the money, to hire Nia Badiokova. Nia couldn't be here today. She's traveling right now. But I'm going to speak about some of the really cool things that she did to assist me. So the Certificate in Applied Psychology is a brand new program. This is just the second year of it being implemented. It's been kind of a process in the making. And if anyone's curious about how it came to be, that could be a discussion for another day. But I'm very happy that the psychology is supporting this program. So our presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about the certificate in applied psychology, and I think this will help you understand why I needed help. Then I'm going to talk about some of the accomplishments that Nia obtained, and then I'm going to pass it over to Sucrete to talk about her experience at New Directions. So the goals of the certificate, as advertised by the psychology department, are to provide students with applied research and mentoring opportunities in community and government organizations. The certificate is actually open to all students. It's not just specific to psychology students. There's actually a lot of neuroscience students who were part of it this year. The certificate also helps to enhance the students' applications to grad school or professional programs. I've written lots of reference letters in the last year for students applying to grad school. And then students may also get permanent or summer employment from their experience. And that did actually happen last year with one of last year's students got a job, a position at End Homelessness Winnipeg. So the certificate involves a few things. So the students have to take a number of core courses, including intro psych, data analysis, and research methods, and then a few applied courses at the 2000, 3000, and 4000 level. In addition, they have to take Psych 3790 Applied Psychology, which is a 1 credit hour course that I teach. The course is intended to prepare students to work or volunteer in a community setting. I based the course on the principles of community psych, and the course is capped at 25 students. Last year we had 23 students, and this year we had 21. And I've actually asked for the course to be converted to a 3 credit hour course. And so I haven't heard if that's been approved yet, but I really hope so because I need more time with the students. And then the last component is the students have to volunteer for 90 hours. And I think of the volunteering kind of in 2 streams. One is some of them have goals of going on to clinical psych or working in a kind of a clinical type setting. So they can get a volunteer position in that kind of an environment. And then about half of the students are interested in doing that. And then the other half of the students are thinking more along the lines of careers in research. And so the second stream focuses on community-based organization identified and defined research evaluation and information projects. So Nia helped me develop relationships and do outreach to get volunteer opportunities at a number of different community organizations. And like I said, the projects have to be something that the organization identifies and defines. We're not imposing students on an organization. It's a project that they themselves want. So in terms of how this certificate works, so the students express their interest. I won't go over this in detail, but the students express their interest. I meet with them in the summertime for between 15 and 30 minutes to learn more about them and what they're interested in doing and why they want to be part of this program. They take the course, the applied psychology course, and the volunteer component is not tied to the course, so they can take it. I actually have some students doing the volunteering now, and they haven't taken the course. And then I have some students from last year who haven't started their volunteer work. So the volunteering can be done at any time. Once they've completed all the requirements, then they submit paperwork to the department to receive approval for the certificate, and once the department reviews it and approves, then they'll receive the certificate and it's noted on their transcript. So how I use the money to hire Nia, and Nia really helped me with the outreach component. Since I have so many students and only so much time, she really helped reach out to registered clinical psychologists as well as community-based organizations. So I won't go over this in detail, but basically there's a matching process where a psychologist or a community organization gets matched to a student. Once the student is matched for the research projects, I provide academic supervision. So I meet with the students fairly regularly to check in, to give them advice, to edit their deliverables, and to make sure that they're meeting the requirements kind of outlined in the project agreements. And I also attend meetings with their supervisor, their field placement supervisor. So I have 2 slides here. This one is based on student placements in the 2021 academic year. So we have a partnership with New Directions where approximately 10 students are placed. And I also, a former student of mine who's now a registered clinical psychologist, took on a student. And then I had students doing research projects at End Homelessness Winnipeg Women's Health Clinic in New Directions. So this is Nyala actually helped find the placement at the Women's Health Clinic. So I'm going to show you where the students are placed this year, and you can see that there's been a huge increase in the number of students and number of projects, and that's largely due to Nia's help doing the outreach. So we now have a partnership with Eden Mental Health Center. There's a student placed there. And we have students doing projects at the Canadian Mental Health Association, St. Amant, Roseau, Compassion Network, there's a research group at the U of M, some more projects at New Directions, the True North Foundation, Residence Dispen, Inspire, Community Outreach, and United Way of Winnipeg. And I'm happy to talk about any of these projects. They're all very exciting, and I'm working with the students doing the research and evaluation type projects. So a few things that Nia also helped me with. So she developed this beautiful logo for the certificate. I just think it's perfect in so many ways. The certificate is something that I think is growing and blossoming. It's something that's alive and it's going to change and evolve over time. And I love how the paint isn't, it's like it's splattered out, because I feel like we're doing something out of the box and something that's not traditional. So Nia developed this logo. She also created a social media plan. She created a Facebook page, and you can see an image here that I took from the Facebook page. And she created a short survey that she sent to students who completed the requirements for the certificate. And she's creating these little posts based on the students, the students who took the course or took the program and have got the certificate. She has also developed a database of contacts and a template for us to use in the future to reach out to potential organizations and clinical psychologists who might want to partner with us. So I just want to thank Nyala and the Experiential Learning Fund for supporting this work. I was going to talk about the benefits, but I think I'm running out of time. So I'm going to pass it on now to Supreet, who's going to talk about her experience at New Directions. And like I said, Supreet was supported through the fund, through the having her criminal record check covered.
Hey, so hi everyone. I'm Supreet, and I'm currently doing a bachelor's in psychology, and I wish to become a clinical psychologist myself one day. So I'm just going to talk about the Student Mentor Program, also known as MAC at New Directions. I first came across this program in university's academic calendar, and after that I contacted Dr. Hinds and she guided me further. Today, I will just explain some of the activities or the tasks I was involved in. So in the beginning of the program, we were assigned to different individuals for connection calls and skill development. A connection call just means reaching out to an individual and building a connection so they can feel more comfortable sharing and know that they are not alone and someone is there for them. And then the skill development exercise was based on the zone of proximal development and action, reflection, action principle. Individuals selected which skill they would like to work on and develop. For this module, my mentee, who is a high school student, wanted to focus on increasing motivation for school. So previously, they had really hard time fitting into the school division system. So to increase their motivation, I first worked on acknowledging the hardships they had and things which didn't work for them. Then we focused on the changes they can make to motivate themselves for future education. I included things like practicing mindfulness, making a list of study goals and why they're important to them. And we also focused on steps they will need to accomplish them. So me and my mentee connected every 2 weeks or so just to make sure that the progress was being made. And if there were any issues, we tried to resolve them by modifying the plan. We established a pretty good relationship through this program, and we are still in touch with each other, even though it has finished. Apart from this, throughout the year, program organizers and we had bi-weekly coordinator meetings. During these meetings, different coordinators who were mostly clinical psychologists or social workers presented on different topics, which are useful in psychology practice, for example, DBT, mindfulness, animal therapy, etc. During these meetings, we also discussed any of the challenges we were facing with building connections or working on skill development. All of us had different individuals assigned to us, so the experiences we had were also different. Due to these meetings, we were also able to learn from each other's experiences. Apart from this, I attended some of the social work workshops on adult child home share program. During these workshops, I was able to connect with some of the home share providers and just learn how they provide the best possible care. Next slide, please. Okay, and I would like to mention the key things I have learned or acquired from this experience. I have gained exposure to what psychology practice looks like in real life and how different practitioners can help. It was really helpful to work with clinical psychologists and social workers and just learn how they navigate the system and what techniques they use. I've also learned how much positivity comes from this program, and especially how much mentees seem to enjoy the connections we make. This program also helped me to have a better understanding of disadvantaged backgrounds and conditions. Overall, I would just say it was a really positive and educational experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
Awesome, thank you. I'll stop sharing and open to questions.
Done with the funds that you had allocated. And Sukhpreet, it just sounds like you had a really wide variety of experiences that really helped you enhance your understanding. I'm not sure who had their hand up first. There's Deborah and Rob. Did Rob have a question?
Not a question. That was maybe me trying to fumble my way through Zoom's reactions. I just wanted to say thanks for a great presentation. I love the program and how it was put together. I was furiously taking notes and trying to remember all the great points. So thanks for that.
Did anyone else have a question? Or maybe I also saw just someone else clapping. I think could have been what happened. Yeah, if there's no more questions. Thank you again. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess our next presenter is Dr. Christy Kenyon and her student Fiona Vowell, and they are presenting on their project called Marking Human Rights History on Winnipeg's Landscape, Monuments, and the Story They Do and Do Not Tell, and this is out of the Human Rights Global College Department at UW. So I can make you a co-host if you've got any slides. Did Fiona have any slides?
Yeah, Fiona will be our slide wizard.
Great.
Thank you so much, Nyala, and to the Experiential Learning Fund for supporting this project. So this is a project between the three of us. Two of us are here today, myself, Dr. Saad Khan, and Fiona, who is actually a recent graduate of our BA in Human Rights program. I'm a faculty in Human Rights. Dr. Khan is contract faculty, and we're the two that are teaching the course within which this intervention is situated. So just moving to the next slide, this is a quotation that we see often in human rights that I thought was just particularly relevant to our project from Eleanor Roosevelt, where she asks, where after all do universal human rights begin? In small places close to home, so close and so small that they cannot be seen on any map of the world. Yet they are the world of the individual person, the neighborhood he or she lives in the college, school or college he or she attends, the factory, farm, or office where he or she works. Such are the places where every man, woman, and child seeks equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity without discrimination. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. And so this project, just moving on to the next slide, is in a lot of ways trying to act on that quotation and trying to bring a few different ideas home in ways that are meaningful, local, and accessible to students in our classes. So looking at experiential learning more broadly, at least within the fields with which I'm acquainted, we're often seeing very resource intensive things such as field courses, which we do, practicums, which we also do, which are time intensive. So they're often talking about interventions that are expensive, far away, time intensive, very important, very meaningful for sure, but not accessible to all of our student body. And if we look at the topics of human rights and history, these are also often considered by students, particularly in the first few years of study, as concepts and disciplines that are distant in time and space. So sometimes people see human rights as something that happens far from where they actually live, and history as being in the distant past, and so have difficulty connecting these to their daily lives and to the places where they live. And so the core assignment that we've been using in a class called History of Human Rights in Canada, which is a second-year course with no prerequisites, that is quite a popular course and quite a large course. What we've made the core assignment of this class is a paper analyzing the human rights story that's told or obscured by a Winnipeg monument. And I had been doing this for about 4 years before we applied for this funding. And this really came from an interest of trying to figure out how we might use this assignment in the pandemic context, in the online context, and also how we might assess the impact of this as a potential opportunity for others that are looking for ways to integrate an experiential, a kind of small scale experiential project into an existing course on a very low budget. And so this is the core assignment. We then developed a framework to scaffold around this assignment of skill building activities in class, including guest speakers and field trips. Specifically, we drew on Madison Zinkowitz, who's another recent graduate of our program, who did her practicum photographing more than 80 monuments in the city and mapping them, which provided us with a really great resource for this class and a database that we've been able to put up on Nexus. We've also been able to bring Dr. Erin Millions into the class for the past year, who sits on the city's Welcoming Winnipeg committee, which is tasked with assessing the renaming of places in the city. And we've created a number of in-class activities to practice the skills related to this assignment, and also experimented with what we've been calling a do-it-yourself or DIY field trip, where students visit monuments independently during the COVID context, take photos, and then engage in a discussion about them. So these are some of the things that sort of scaffold this. We're positioning this, as I said, as a local, low-cost, COVID-adaptable form of experiential learning that also involves some skill building, asking students to apply their analytical skills and also what they learn from theory and literature to a new form of data, to a physical object, and also to something that is in their neighborhood, that is in the city, so that they're applying analytical skills and engaging with the city and its symbols in new ways. And there's a few things about this that we felt were important and experiential. We all know that monuments and statues have become an important issue in terms of representation over at least the last 5 years, but this has particularly become a resonant local conversation since the removal of the Queen Victoria statue. And so it was really at the top of a number of people's minds in terms of what does this mean? Who do we remember? How do we remember them? What stories are we telling? Whose stories are missing? And what does the city's landscape tell us about how we tell particular histories and narratives and not others? In terms of what counts as a monument, most students looked at statues, but we used a pretty open definition. Some looked at street names or school names, community-led projects like the Red Dress Project, for example. One student chose to look at the new $10 bill with Viola Desmond and the CMHR on it, gravestones, and this past term, one student chose to look at the Christmas lights display of the Three Wise Men on the Canada Life building. So some broad and really interesting interpretations. And so in addition to these skills of analysis, one of the things that was useful about this project and that really for us made it experiential is that because they're analyzing something in their immediate environment, this is not a one-time experience, but an ongoing process of learning and reflection. Students were far more likely to talk to their friends and families about the activity, and also to revisit the places that they had written about. And so it also is kind of an act of revisioning their relationship with environment, with also this opportunity to share their findings with the city and to engage with local initiatives and conversations in this area. So we found that this opened a lot of really interesting conversations. So why in this class, the history of human rights in Canada? First of all, it's really relevant to the course contents. We are having a national conversation about how we represent history. It does also tie into some of the recommendations from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission as well. It brings topics home. It is also a good setting in terms of the class itself, in that it is a class usually capped at 65, offered 7 times a year. It doesn't have prerequisites. It counts as a humanities requirement. And so as a result, we have students from all over campus, all different disciplines, different year levels, as well as a wide diversity in life experience as well. So we thought this would be an interesting opportunity to get a pretty good breadth of campus as well in terms of assessing their experience of doing this assignment. So I'll now turn it over to Fiona, who will talk about our assessment methodology of this assignment.
For sure. So we are still very much going in this project. So Christy and Saad have not had the opportunity to even look at some of the data yet. So I know it was very exciting when they saw what I had put in the presentation. So basically how it works is my role specifically is to go into the classroom within the first or second week of the course, and I administer an online questionnaire to basically examine what are students' current understandings of monuments, how they view history, do they even see this as an issue, the correlation between monuments and even just our understandings of human rights. And then within the last week where they're submitting their final paper for this assignment, I administer the post survey, which is a bit more of have your thoughts changed? What do you know now that you maybe didn't know before? So here are some of our demographics. This is ongoing. We are doing the final class during the spring term, so these will change. But yeah, so we've received a total of just under 200 responses, and with a bit heavier pre-survey response compared to the post-survey response. These are some of the demographics that we're finding, which is, I'd say, pretty typical for global college classes, but yeah. And then some of our preliminary results. So we have 2 examples of questions that I've been working through. So it's, do you feel capable of analyzing or commenting on the value of monuments in Winnipeg, i.e. their content, the quality of their representation, their location, and their representativeness? So this is really interesting right off the hop, is that although we have a higher pre-response than the post-response, you can see that the not at all capable has very much shifted in the post. Even though maybe there's less in the very capable, more people are more confident that they have somewhat the capability to make decisions or comment on that, which is good since they wrote a paper. Any other comments you want to add, Christy, on this one? No, okay. And then are monuments a human rights issue? Because it's very important within the media recently of, is this a problem?
how do we understand this specifically through the summer in Winnipeg. So we have this pre, not at all, I don't know, a little bit, somewhat, very much so. And it's interesting, the shift for me personally reading the data was that 0% said I don't know, which is showing us that people have been able to make a decision about what they believe in regards to monuments being a human rights issue, and very much so coming up higher with somewhat, and some people still, you know, sticking to their not at all, which is great. Yeah, so these are two of the questions. There was, I think, about 15 or 16 questions total, some being quantitative and some being qualitative. So here are some of our preliminary comments. So has your opinion been altered or changed in regards to the existence of monuments during this course? If so, how? If not, why? Please explain. So this was on the post. So we have students' comments saying, yes, I didn't really pay attention or think about the value of monuments before, and now I will be more aware and educate myself on monuments around me, what they mean, understand the importance or the issues with it, and I have learned to be more analytical. It's forced me to look at both the good and the not so good that came from a particular historical event that is captured, and made me realize that there's often more to the story. And then another perspective is not really, this was already on my radar, and I have more knowledge now as a result of this course. I know for us, going into further analysis, how media coverage has happened in particularly Winnipeg, but also Canada, will likely play a role into our results compared to when Christy probably taught me the course a while ago. So, and then moving forward, next steps, continued data analysis. We're aiming to implement this project and assessment with in-person classes this spring term and the fall and winter next term. And then the aim is to publish an academic article, present on campus, and publish at least in one open accessible forum.
Great,
Any questions?
Maybe just
Yes.
add to that, one surprise, as with everybody, is we anticipated at least half of this year would be in person, and it was not. Response rates are typically lower and a bit briefer with online surveys. So that's part of the reason that we're hoping to get a bit richer data and also have the opportunity to maybe compare between online versus in-person teaching of this assignment. And that we used our funding entirely to pay Fiona for her assistance in administering, co-developing, and participating in the data analysis. And that Sad and I haven't seen all of the data because we need to wait until marks are submitted for ethics reasons until we can see this term's data.
Any questions?
Not sure. Can you hear me? Yes. Oh, okay, great. I wasn't sure if my mic was. That was awesome, and I really enjoyed listening to that presentation. And I just had a thought about that number that had gone down in the very capable column, and I thought that that really spoke to how great the program is, because I just feel like the more you understand about a topic such as monuments, the more you understand that it is every monument is such a nuanced, there's just so much nuance in that topic. And so the feeling less very capable made a lot of sense to me, because students are understanding that there is a lot more to the story. And I think even one of those the last quotes that you put up there said that exactly. Like, I have more knowledge and a better understanding of the monuments around me. So anyway, I think in my brain that made a lot more sense, but I thought that that number made a lot of sense to me, that would have gone down a little bit, but yeah, thanks
absolutely.
For sharing.
And in the survey, we asked, who do you think is best capable to do that analysis? And it's interesting, the difference between the pre and the post is the pre has a lot of comments about anyone, and then the post has a lot of comments about academics or people that study history. So it's interesting even just seeing who they think should do that. One of the answers was people who've done this course, which I thought was very funny and good. But yeah.
I think Ainsley had her hand raised.
Thanks. I'm just curious if you are going to be able to link the pre and the post course through a common identifier. So will you be able to identify change over time? No.
No. So students have the option, obviously, to do whether they're maybe not even in class or whichever reason, they can not do either. So that kind of falls into place and it's completely anonymous. Yeah.
The only links we could make would be by class. But we won't know if a particular student's view changed just in general, if they did. Yeah, good question.
Okay, thanks.
There was another raised hand.
Yeah.
And Vesna.
Yeah, it was me. I just wanted to somehow encourage you to post it wildly, as wide as, that's what I meant, as wide as possible, because we need to educate general public really seriously. I came from another world to this one, and I know how uneducated I was, and there's every day masses of immigrants coming, not knowing anything about Winnipeg or the history. The only way I found out something was when I was studying here, Faculty of Education after degree program. I chose because I came to live to the country of Indigenous people. I chose all Indigenous courses that I could take. And I learned so much that official government documents actually that I was required to study for my citizenship were completely opposite from that. They were official government documents that were telling absolutely lies into your face. And educating public that is not going through history, not at all going through those professions is very, very important. So I think this should be published widely. Now I got the word right, not wildly, widely, as wide as possible. Thank you very much for your work. This was excellent use of this fund.
Thank you so much. And I think we'd be happy to publish both wildly and widely. So I really appreciate your comment. And maybe just one thing to add, that because we weren't doing an analysis of the actual monuments in this presentation, but with the exception of mostly relatively well-off white men, every other group is extremely underrepresented. If we look at the formal monuments in the city, which was one of the findings of Madison, who was the practicum student, we do have another question that we don't have the data analyzed for yet, but do you feel that your group is underrepresented? I think that will be an interesting place to see the data as well, because a lot of people don't see their stories, and Indigenous stories are particularly underrepresented.
There was another question from Yannick.
Thanks for a fantastic presentation, and the project is obviously really, really interesting. As somebody who's relatively new to Winnipeg, I'll ask a bit of a naive question, but were there any sort of more frequently selected monuments? I realize it applies to any monument, but were there some that kind of were more frequently selected by the students in your class, and or perhaps are there monuments that best kind of typify the exercise?
I will try to answer briefly, but this is such an interesting question that I would be happy to meet for tea and chat about it. So the most common ones that came up were, there are several monuments to Louis Riel, the current monument on the legislative grounds and the monument at Université Saint-Boniface. Those are the two that come up most frequently. And they're very, very different depictions. And then I would say the famous 5 on the legislature grounds was also one that came up relatively frequently. And we are looking to go through and do a count. We're kind of wondering in terms of publishing how to represent that, because if you don't live in Winnipeg, every monument would require an explanation of, who is this? Why is it meaningful? What are some of the controversies? I don't know, Fiona, if there's anything you wanted to add. I know you are a little less, you weren't reading the papers, so a different kind of exposure to the.
I'd say like in the surveys, they're asked to like, can you just tell us any monument? And those ones, and then the Golden Boy on top of the legislative, and then Mahatma Gandhi on the grounds at the force in front of the CMHR would be.
Cool, that's really interesting. Thanks.
Did anyone else have any more questions or comments that I missed maybe?
I have a very quick question, if I may. It's Tracy Whalen. Hello, everybody. I'm hailing from the Dean of Arts office. You had mentioned, Christy, a mapping database that a student had done. Was that available outside your classroom?
We haven't made it available yet, but it's something we've been using in each version of this class. And I'm realizing with statisticians here, maybe I overstated by saying database. So it is a file of an annotated file of 80+ monuments, and then a Google map indicating where each one is. There is something, the Manitoba Historical Society has something kind of similar. We have slightly different areas of focus, but we haven't made that as something more open access, which I guess would be actually something I would love to do, maybe with somebody with the technical skills, to do a more human rights oriented version of that, so people could zoom in and learn some of the different perspectives on some of the monuments. I don't know if that's where your question was going.
Absolutely. No, it just sounds like a fantastic resource, and work has been put into it, and it certainly will be something I would be interested in seeing. I've worked on the Winnie the Bear statue in Assiniboine Park, and these little statues that people walk by all the time, but they're quite rich, for sure. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, fantastic project that really made use of what was there and is just using landmarks as a landmark for future conversations of students and their people they know revisit those. So that's great. Yeah, if there are no further questions, we can move on. Our next presenter is Vesna Milosevic-Zdjelar out of the physics department, and she'll be talking to us about physical sciences educational classroom videos. So, right ahead. If you have slides, you can share your screen. I think you're muted.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I was focused on slides, so I didn't unmute myself. So, well, I've been teaching science since I came here to Canada, but even before that in former Yugoslavia, I was always elected from my observatory where I worked as a spokesperson for people who are not in sciences to explain what are we doing in observatory, because it was a complex work that needed to be translated to English, and apparently I was one of the people who could do this. So I had a training over there, and when I came here, finished Faculty of Education with my astrophysics degree, I started teaching here science in very, very diverse settings. I started with elementary school, substituting in middle school, in high school, and then got a job at University of Winnipeg teaching science for predominantly non-scientists. Huge groups of concepts in science course and astronomy. And I understand actually the background of people who are looking at the science concepts for the first time. it always bothered me that in high school, wherever I was a student teacher and observing science demos that were very complicated, students were staring at them thinking, okay, I can expect now this machine that you showed me in class to even sing songs for me, you know, to lullabies or anything, because it is so complex that you can't really see how it works. My obsession, my entire life, was to show people principles, how nature works, how electricity and magnetism works, how gravity works, stripped naked of complexities and show really principle as is, with as simple and as cheap materials that I could find. Teachers, I noticed also working in schools, and later on working as a mentor to teachers through Faculty of Education of U of W, I noticed that they actually don't have enough science requirements, in my opinion, in order to teach the youngest kids possible. What I mean by that is that we always thought, at least in my culture, that you can teach the youngest kids with questions that are the toughest ones only if you know that area very, very well, and if you have an honors degree in that particular science. So you cannot answer a question from grade 3 kid, why are magnets repelling, unless you know that nobody in the world knows why magnets are repelling. You have to tell them at a very early stage of education how science really works and what questions you might ask and to what questions you cannot expect answers. Because teachers are very confused when they encounter a question like, why are magnets repelling? Because they think that they personally don't know, and they should know. And if you go through science education of the higher level, kind of like an honors degree in it, you realize very quickly that science can answer questions about how things work, but not why. So when you are so full of understanding to tell without any self-conscious, you know, negative thoughts, trust me, nobody knows why magnets work. And how electricity works, I can show you, and I can show you transparently through things that are obviously showing effects, not something hidden so that things that kids think that science is something hidden behind big machines. No, these are simple effects that are actually natural, and our body works on the basis of electricity and magnetism. When you connect it that way, then understanding really comes through. So my initiative to ask for experiential funding came after my husband, musician, who was teaching music in middle school, solely band music. That's his only profession. He was given last year a task because music was canceled in schools because of COVID. He was given a task to teach science, and he asked me, do you have any videos that would be instructional? Immediately I thought, oh yeah, Bill Nye has lots of them. Then I realized one thing, that audience is different. Here we have, for example, I'll show you, first of all, the goal of our project is really very simple, to increase scientific literacy through hands-on demos and to demonstrate science concepts using very transparent and easy demos. Audiences K-12 teachers and students and college university students and instructors, because we are lacking in this field a lot. When I started teaching 20 years ago here, all teachers were very eager when connection with internet was established to share their resources, because they were suffering, everybody at the same time, the same way. How do you teach this? How do you teach that? Here, I posted something, you take it. That's how I started teaching. However, as the time progressed, and today especially, everything is under pay teachers, pay this, pay that. And I thought that actually the basics was missing for teachers, a very quick resource, how to teach that concept in classroom if they don't have resources. And they can actually have resources without going to very expensive stores that are like Boral laboratories that will sell you a tuning fork for $50. They can actually make their own stuff out of things from Home Depot. And that's what I wanted my students to explore. First of all, vocabulary that each grade level is using. It is extremely different. When I found those Bill Nye, the Science Guy videos, I wanted to suggest to my husband, here it is, one, great on electricity. However, he was teaching grade 3-4 electricity. Bill Nye started with electrons. Electron is not a concept that is taught before middle school. So you can't use that video because now you have to go to explain to grade 3-4 kids what on earth is electron. They call them in curriculum, in Manitoba curriculum, which is brilliantly written, they call them particles of matter. Okay, so we can't use those videos that are existing. Which ones can we use? None of them actually address that level. So I thought of a project like this. We will explore Manitoba curriculum in particular because we live here. We will find vocabulary that is specifically for that level and make videos that are the same for varied levels, but with vocabulary that is fitting for each one. So I will make one video that is 5 to 6 minutes long. I also learned from my husband the environment in classroom. Teachers don't have time. They have time to see the practical video. Maybe if they have materials, they will demonstrate it. If they don't have materials, they can actually show this video. So I thought 6 minutes to 8 minutes maximum for each concept, with also the description of materials, where they can buy them and how to assemble them. I suffered myself one night when I found brilliant demo for magnets and copper coil. And we bought everything off Amazon, 2-day shipping, for my husband to demonstrate that in his classroom. We bought everything from Amazon, and then I started doing that demo with the battery and 2 little magnets through the coil. It should actually swoosh around that coil quickly like a little train, but I couldn't make it work. It was a huge anxiety at about 12:30 in the night that we couldn't make that stupid thing work. Then I Googled everywhere where anybody made this work, and it was a University of Michigan website where graduate students had actually project on it, and just one thing was lacking, little battery. And I put one neodymium magnet here, the other one here, through copper wire. It should swoosh like crazy, but it didn't because I didn't turn magnets the right way. They had to be opposite to each other, completely opposite from your everyday conceptual thinking. So I said, aha, so I need to give teachers the tips how to make it cheap, where to find materials, and also how to assemble it so that it works in the morning. What is more frustrating than, kids, look at this. This is so amazing. It's going to work. And then you put it in and it stalls there, like it doesn't do anything. Well, it is a teachable moment too. You can explain why it doesn't work only if you know, but if you don't know, then you're stuck. So I decided to ask for funding. Who jumped immediately on board. None of them are here at this moment because they have either school or other engagements. Will Jones from the studio where I record my courses, Concepts in Science and Astronomy for online viewing. He, cameraman and editor, he was immediately on board. He said, okay, we will do educational videos. He even assembled the start of the video. I'll show you that. It's simply hilarious. I said, I'm a little embarrassed with this, but okay, if you want to put it as an intro, go ahead. I have to share screen now to share the video, I guess. So I will just make you nauseated with my sharing screen. This is the thing that he thought about. Yes, so that was his creation with something spooky in the very beginning. I'm not sure we're going to keep that, so I just showed you the part that I really like with his music and his directing and everything. So what I did was I asked him to help. I asked also our technician at physics department to help out with something. You will see with what. And then I asked for some funding to sponsor, pay a student who would actually go. He's a biochemistry student, but physical sciences are not foreign to him. So he went through curriculum documents and selected for each grade level what is the vocabulary that is proper to use in videos. So I myself am making videos on the basis of curriculum suggestions. And also I have a med student that I'm mentoring this year. So what better use of his skills and time than to help the student Spas Nikolov to go through curriculum documents. Now this med student will now be involved in curriculum of his own schooling, and Spas Nikolov as a biochemist one day potentially going into education will already be completely familiar with curriculum outcomes of various grade levels, because when you get certificate in Manitoba, you never know where you will end up teaching. So the topics that we chose was the observable universe. It has a big title, but it's actually Earth's motion and Newton's laws, demonstration of gravity, formation of planetary system with some rotating gases and things. Atom and quantum reality, I call it like that because it is really, when you are teaching electromagnetic waves like light, it's simply called light, but these are electromagnetic waves and it is a quantum concept, then people unknowingly learn about quantum physics a lot, even though it's grade 3, 4. Optics, light, sound waves as well. And we chose to follow completely kindergarten to grade 4 science, Manitoba curriculum, of course, and then here are learning outcomes, and here's a vocabulary that Spas Nikolov actually had to select for me, and for each video give me the list of vocabulary which is correct so that I can actually correct my videos accordingly, make entirely same video with a different vocabulary for grade 6 and 7 and 8, and make entirely same video for grade 11, grade 9 or 11, depending where the topic is. And also I show the same demonstration in my Concepts in Science course, which is for future teachers. One of the requirements, almost, it's strongly suggested course. Or senior 1, we have the nature of electricity. Senior 3 again has a sound, so I have to make a video on sound for that. So I will show you some things that we made already. I will share screen with you with another video that we have here, that this is video from my classroom class in physics of music that I'm teaching acoustics. And I wanted to make so-called Chladni plates to show vibration of plates that is producing the same patterns as vibration of air, which is sound, vibration of water when you drop something into it, that waves of every material are actually behaving very similarly. And I wanted to show resonance effect. Resonance effect is taught in grade 9 and later on in grade 11. So it's not for 3, 4 grade, but it was my dream to actually show it differently than what I have in my video with super duper machines that are showing it. And I'll show you that machine, which is oscillator. Right here we have, am I sharing the right screen? Are you seeing the video, me kneeling on the floor? Just nod. Oh, you don't. I'm not sharing the right screen. I'm so sorry. Okay, excellent, excellent that you told me. Here is me. Here's a oscillating body with some super expensive generator of frequencies. Do you see it now? Yes, probably. Okay, so I'm kneeling here and trying to make some patterns when this disc is vibrating, and this is how plates like piano soundboard is vibrating without possibility to see it with our eyes, but if you put some sand on it, then you will see vibrations. What I wanted to do is something prior to this, so I will first show you what I do with this oscillating plate with very expensive equipment. So let me try to drive it here. Okay. Yes, right here. Do you see the sound? Do you hear the sound of the video? No. Okay. So we have a generator of frequencies somewhere there connected to this oscillator here, which is now vibrating this plate. And sometimes you get everything out of whack, but sometimes you fit the frequency that will actually give you a pattern of that's actually the resonance frequency of this plate, where some parts will be vibrating a lot, clearing the sand, and sand will be collected along the lines which are quiet, which are not vibrating. I'll just show you that visually. So I'm right here. If you're hearing me, I chose vibrations of 30 hertz and I'm increasing them. And this is my beagle screaming. I'm sorry. Now we will see the first resonance frequency for this particular plate of this shape and of this material. And you will see a pattern established. So you see that these are vibrating parts of the plate, these here and this one here, and these are quiet. This is applicable to so many interesting concepts. For example, recently it was found out that our asteroid belt in solar system might be a product of resonance between Jupiter and Saturn, which are every 2 orbits of Jupiter, 1 orbit of Saturn come into resonance and then wreak havoc in solar system. And we think that planets are not where they were formed before. So this concept of resonance spans entire science education, and I wanted to show it in several different ways. One of the ways that actually was my dream to show it, and I could just barely show it here because I didn't have proper equipment, but our technician, Dave Ostapchuk at physics department, made actually a set that I didn't see yet because I'm out of my office because I have some kind of autoimmune possibility, so I'm avoiding COVID at all costs. But I wanted to make this same concept shown by bowing with the bow, which is really easy to do, but nobody does it. But my husband, musician, told me that I might use the bow to produce frequencies instead of that $400 frequency generator. So you will see now, again, I put the sand and I'm holding it in my hand and I produce here pattern. That is exactly the pattern that reflects the frequency of the bow that I was bowing. And I could produce many more patterns only if I had stationary plates. And Dave actually went to Home Depot, bought them cheaply, and just cut them into pieces and somehow fixed them to fixed holders. And he still has to show me that. So we paid for materials for that from our fund. I paid student Spas Nikolov to give me vocabulary for each level so that I can explain resonance on various levels. So I can show you many, many more of these, but I will have to navigate you through all of the videos, and it's really not an easy job now. I cannot open them all at the same time. So this is something that was my dream to show simple, easy, how things work, how Tesla motor works. I'm not having Tesla motor in any shape or form that is complicated. I have a wire that is just hanging off a wooden rod, and it's just in a magnet, big magnet. And when I put some electricity through the wire, and I explain in a video why this wire has torque and it starts oscillating, and it is what drives motor in Tesla car. But kids and teachers are seeing a wire and a magnet, and they understand that if you now have to expand it to a better looking machinery and bigger and more powerful, you can easily do that while you know the concept. The other thing that I like is that I didn't like actually when I was in charge of making Professional Development Day for Physics Association teachers of Manitoba. They came to our lab with a project. We will make hoverboard, and they made big, elaborate hoverboards with engines and motors. They worked for a week, and it was fun, okay, for us who know how hoverboard works. But you cannot explain that concept to grade 11 kids at all, because they don't understand what this machine on this piece of wood is for and how is it working. What I do in my class of university concepts in science, I take a CD-ROM with a hole in the middle and put a balloon, attach a balloon, and when I deflate the balloon, that air goes underneath the CD-ROM and it hovers around the table for a few minutes. And I tell them now, you can make it to support human weight, but you need bigger machine like a leaf blower to blow through a hole in a bigger thing, and then you can stand on it. But understanding simply principle from the first principles, that's my motto, and I wanted to give teachers an insight how to explain properly science concepts. So that's pretty much what I used my funding for.
Yeah, no, this is so fascinating.
So,
you could just show us all your videos, but we've got one more presenter left. So if there were any more quick questions for Vesna.
I just wanted to say I have a WEC group, Winnipeg Education Center, who are having right now course Concepts in Science, and they are in schools in practicum. They will be disseminating these videos to their teachers, so the evaluation will come from teachers, how usable those are and how kids react to them.
That's great. Thanks so much. Yeah, did anyone else have any comments or questions for us now? Great. That is such a cool project.
Okay, thank you.
Our last presenter for this afternoon is Elliot Long, and he will be talking about his placement and project in Paul DePasquale's Indigenous Health course out of the English department. So Elliot, take it away. I think I've added you as a co-host.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm just gonna share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Years of this, and I still am always forgetting how to do the thing. Okay, so yeah, so I partnered with a local nonprofit organization, the West Central Women's Resource Center, and did a coloring book with them. So I'm just gonna put it on, I'll put it on like 10 seconds a page, and it'll just autoplay through them, so you folks can see what we did. Yeah, so I got this idea because I'd actually heard someone speak on the CBC about from this organization, and talking about how one of the things that they do in their community outreach program is they visit like the encampments down by the river, and they hand out hot meals and things like that to shelter insecure folks in Winnipeg. And so but the interview that I heard with them, they were specifically talking about how lots of folks are asking for like art supplies and donations, and that those things just like are considered luxury items, you know, and they're just not really donated, and they have a certain budget that really only allows for them to oh, this is going so fast. I thought I slowed it down, sorry. But yeah, so they aren't always able to fit this in their budget. So this is where I got the idea for the project, and ended up working on this coloring book. And so yeah, so I contacted them about it. Of course, they were super excited. I have a little bit of experience with stuff like this. I did a calendar, I think it was 2019, for another group called Pantry. And yeah, and then it ended up raising $2,000 with them. I did the creative part, but I wasn't really involved in the fundraising and stuff. So this was pretty new to me this time around. Yeah, and so basically they put me on a team. We met up a couple times, like you know, on Zoom and to talk about the details of this. Some of the staff contributed images or had family and friends who contributed images to this. I did a whole bunch of pieces in here, and then I know a couple artists, so I reached out, and yeah, we ended up having like 12 different folks working on the project. And so yeah, and so one of the most special things about this, I think, was like working with those folks and getting to kind of hear about them. So all of the people that contributed are either Indigenous themselves, or queer and trans, or any and all of those things. And so yeah, and so we talked a lot about like the importance of the people doing this work, you know, representing like the people who it's for as well. So that was really interesting. Yeah, and so I also included a piece from my dad as well, who is not with us any longer. He was an Indigenous artist, and it was really important to him to sort of publish his work. So I've been working on that. That's an image of him there. He did the one with the fish that's going to come up next. Yeah, and so what we did was we ran a little social media campaign across like Facebook and Instagram. We did a pre-order for the coloring books, sold them for $10 each, or there was an option to donate as well. So we ended up making $850, which went entirely to printing. We ended up printing 200 of them and then buying art supplies with the rest of the money. So 92 ended up being purchased, and 108 were donated and handed out with free art supplies. Yeah, and so I just wanted to talk a little bit about West Central. So some of the things that we talked about when I worked with them is like, despite the name, they support people of all genders, not just women, as well as all races. Although Indigenous folks do make up the majority of the participants for the center. They hand out necessities as well as other items to participants. It's really important to them that they're handed out with like respect and care and with individual wants and needs. They ask folks specifically like which things they can get. You know, they're not always able to get everything, but they're not just strictly handing out the same things to everybody. And they really want to challenge the sort of like beggars can't be choosers mentality that a lot of folks unfortunately hold. I learned that they're like regularly bombarded by people trying to stop them from handing out food and things like that. Like even while they're right in the middle of it, they've had people just come and sort of run at them and try to stop them, which is just really horrible, you know, but just sort of like for, you know, quote unquote, like enabling folks. We had a lot of conversations about universal basic income and just sort of the idea of like access and how society deems like only certain groups of people worthy enough for certain things. And so, yeah, and so I don't know, our winters are, you know, they're long and cold and wet. I know, so are our springs, especially this year. And so this just felt special because, you know, even if it is like a luxury item and not what somebody would consider a necessity, it still gives folks something constructive to do with their time. And that's harm reduction too, which is something that's really important to this organization. And they also told me a lot about like the community building aspect of this. And so part of what they do is they want to work on building a relationship with a lot of these folks that are shelter insecure, to build trust. And so one example is like they were asking folks if they wanted like markers or pencil crayons, that kind of thing, you know, which seems small, but it's just like a small sort of humanizing act that it's just taking their personal preferences into account. And then they were able to go back and see some of the coloring and stuff and kind of like talk to people about it. And it was really like just became a community building sort of talking piece. And so the hope is that, you know, building these relationships, these folks will then feel more comfortable to access resources from them if they need to. Yeah, and so we talked a lot about like making sure that our artwork was non-appropriative as well for the folks who were not Indigenous working on this project. And yeah, lastly, it was really well received. People were really happy with it. Had many conversations with family and friends and strangers, and a couple of my neighbors even that had bought some about the project, about the funding, about West Central, and about the artists and stuff. And so it was really cool because yeah, it was just really well received. And you know, there's never enough hot meals and food given out to people, but there are a lot of places that are doing that. So, but it just felt nice to be able to kind of do, you know, something that is just nice and considered like a luxury item that folks don't usually get to participate in.
That is so great. And I feel like, yeah, it's absolutely just a mental health initiative also, like in terms of the course itself. And yeah, no, things also usually deemed luxury items are often helpful for mental health as well, which is something that's often forgotten as a need. So that's really great. I had one quick question for you. Were you surprised at the shape that this project took and the kinds of conversations that it opened up?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, like I said, I had worked on a thing before, so I felt pretty confident that I would know enough people that would be interested in if not participating, then even like just purchasing. But no, I was really surprised. I mean, like even some of the folks that contributed, like I reached out to Sophie LaBelle, who's a Canadian trans artist who's pretty well known, and she was super excited to work on it and stuff. So that was pretty cool, and it just yeah, it was great. It was awesome. Yeah.
I think Ainsley had her hand raised.
Hi, the images are absolutely beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
I was wondering, was this project tied to a course?
Yeah, so the course, it's an English Indigenous Studies cross-listed course called Topics in Indigenous Texts and Culture.
And so did other students in the class do other projects like this, or?
I believe there was at least one other person. I'm not sure what they worked on. We were all given the opportunity to like apply to do this and then reach out to the organizations. And so I know for sure one other person did a project, but I don't know the details of it.
And are you interested in doing this again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions for Elliot or any comments? What a very interesting, unique project. Yeah. Well, I guess that's time. So I just wanted to thank all of our presenters for taking the time to show us what they've been working on. And yeah, everyone has fantastic initiatives that they were able to work on and involve students. And it looks like the students really had a wonderful time. And yeah, I just also wanted to thank the Faculty of Arts for continuing to support this initiative, and Dr. Tracy Whalen, who is the de facto director of experiential learning and internships. So thank you, everyone, and I hope this was great. So.